All right. Okay. So it looks like we are going live here. Okay. So I am here with my co-host, Adam Kemper.
What's going on,
Adam, how
everybody?
are we doing? What do you have going on over there? And are you excited for this amazing live today?
Absolutely. We're up to episode 14 of season 2, and 6, 7, 8 months in, too long into this pandemic. So we've had some wonderful guests, and we've covered a lot of topics this year. And we're really excited to have John Livesay join us today from Austin. You're coming in from Austin,
Yes,
right?
I am.
Thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you who don't know John, John is called the Pitch Whisperer, and we're here to pitch the world. And we also are an affiliate of Pitch Investors Live. So no better fit than the Pitch Whisperer himself to join us today. And he's a best-selling author. He runs his own podcast called The Successful Pitch. He's a storytelling expert and keynote speaker. And I actually just watched your TEDx earlier today. Fabulous job. It has over 1 million views on YouTube. So if we could provide a link to that to our viewers, I think everybody should watch that, get to know a little bit more about John and some of his message. And also, obviously, if you have questions today, if we have some time, we'll try and get to those as well. So, John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Adam and Jonathan. Great to be with both of you. Yeah, the TEDx talk is all about embracing disruption, and gosh, that's more important than ever now.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, this has been an interesting year, and a lot of we're trying to spread a very positive message on Pitch the World, because you turn on whatever, if you watch Fox, CNN, doesn't matter. You turn on the news and it's nothing but negativity. You go on social media and you hear about everything that's going on. It's a lot of negativity. So we really just try and bring in an expert such as yourself to shed some positive light on the things that you can do to make this a great year for yourself, personally and professionally. Tell us about some of the things you've been doing this year.
Well, to your point, entrepreneurs are the whole gasoline to the economy. And our job is to see problems and figure out how to solve them. And as a speaker, obviously things got disrupted in my world, so you can't travel and do live events anymore. So I was working with Olympus Medical, the camera company that has a medical division, and we've had to figure out how do we take this live event and create as much value as we would virtually as we did live. And ironically, some new challenges and problems came up that didn't exist before, such as, gee, could you teach our team how to be good on Zoom? They've never had to sell on camera before.
Right.
They don't know how to light themselves at home. They don't know how to have a good mic. There's a lot of challenges they have around that. So that became another problem I could solve, in addition to teaching them how to use storytelling as a sales tool. So those are the kinds of things you can look at, like, oh God, everything's changed. And they're like, wait a minute, here's a new opportunity. And then again, another new problem for them is they're used to walking into doctors' offices and with the Starbucks to the receptionist and saying, hey, can I get 5 minutes with the doctor, or going to the hospital and catching the doctor between surgeries. None of that's allowed anymore. So now they need some training, because they've never had to do it, on how to get an email that's so compelling and doesn't get lost, that allows them to get in the virtual door, not the real door. So all of these changes have shifted, and many people have seen Hamilton now, whether in person or on Disney Plus. And there's this great song about, you got to get in the room where it happens. And that's what pitching is all about, getting in the right room. And that's why what you two have is brilliant solution. There's 2 reasons why people don't get funded. They're in the wrong room. They're talking to an investor that doesn't fund what they do, or they don't have a good pitch.
Right.
So the combination of you getting them in the right room and what we're going to talk about today, of getting the right story, can help them get funded faster. The stats that I've heard from investors, I really go, really? Is this really true? So they tell me, we hear about 2,500 pitches a year, and we fund 25. I'm like, wow, there's the 1%. So I think the solution that the 3 of us are offering people is, how do we get those people with great ideas in that 1% club. And a lot of it comes with right room, right pitch, and that warm introduction and building trust. The mistakes I see people make is that they treat the investors like they're a customer, and they try to pitch them as if they would want to use the app or the product or whatever it is. And the investors have so many different criteria than a consumer does. So that's one big suggestion.
Wow, super interesting. I mean, like being in this space, taught us so much about like the investor space. And, like we hear so many different type of criterias. We've heard some people talk about they want to resonate with the founders. Some people care. Some of the investors want to hear about the numbers. Some we hear a lot about the storytelling. But as we have in the name of the title of this episode, one of the things that came to mind is like, we're always pitching, right? So like in life, we're always pitching. So sometimes if, let's say I want to go to a restaurant and I'm going with a friend, I might pitch them with the type of restaurant that I want to go to. Let's say, for example, like I want to buy a certain type of food or have certain way to go about something. I might have to pitch that person. A wife might have to pitch the husband on why to buy something for the house. So, kids are pitching their parents. They're already learning how to pitch at a young age. So the very important thing that I wanted to cover is how does someone nail that 30-second pitch and do it in a very elevator pitch type of style? Can you tell us what's the best methodology and what's the best way to have that short pitch to, let's say, if you want to pitch an investor, how can you do it? And what's the best methodology that you can say, like 30 minutes to 1 minute max, that is going to nail the head?
Sure, Jonathan. Well, a lot of people think, okay, I've got 10 minutes in front of an angel group or whatever it is. And so I'm going to waste those first seconds with, thanks for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here. And I say that is the number one mistake. Don't bore people with cliches. First of all, nobody cares that you're excited. It's not about you. It's about them. So that's the first thing we don't want to do, is waste those. You really only have 30 to 90 seconds at the most to grab their attention. So one of the techniques I use is I have people write down their moments of certainty. Because let's face it, the stakes are high when you're pitching on your app, right? I mean, it could change your life. And so negative thoughts come up like, ooh, I really need this, or I'm nervous, or is this going to work? And all that's strategy and fear. First of all, I tell you, get butterflies in your stomach. That's a good thing. Just get them to fly in formation. Get the negative energy out of your stomach and into the room. Make a gesture. And if you're on camera, make a gesture on camera. So stacking your moments of certainty, replacing that negative self-talk and fear with, I remember when I pitched and got a yes. I remember when I asked somebody out on a date and I got a yes. Whatever it is, you want to put that in your head. And I did this exercise with one of my clients, Martin. And here's one of his moments of certainty that we turned into his opening 30 seconds that got him funded. I was born in South America, but I grew up in the Netherlands. And when I turned 18, my parents took me back to South America and dropped me off naked in the Amazon jungle to survive for 2 weeks, because in my culture, that's a rite of passage into manhood. And I said, whoa, Martin, that's a great story. It gives me goosebumps. But what did you learn in the jungle? He goes, well, I learned how to focus and pivot and persevere. I said, great. And you're going to take those lessons from the Amazon jungle into the concrete jungle of being an entrepreneur. And when we had that all honed down to the first 30 seconds, he got funded because the investors thought, if that guy can survive the Amazon jungle, he can survive anything. So let's look at what that structure is. Because what investors are looking for is grit and tenacity and resilience. And you cannot say you have it. You must show it in a story. That's the big takeaway for everybody. Don't say something that everyone else can say. And even if you haven't survived the Amazon jungle, everyone has a story. I can help find it for you. So with Martin, when we were rehearsing this, sometimes he would forget to say it's a rite of passage in his culture. And I say, Martin, if you don't say that, it sounds like child abuse. So you need to do the exposition, paint that picture, the who, what, where, when, so we're in the story with you. And then you describe the problem. In this case, the stakes were very high. You're naked in the jungle for 2 weeks. The solution, he learns these life lessons that he then takes into his business. And the resolution of that story is that's what made, see, the cleverness of Amazon jungle to concrete jungle. When you use those kinds of language techniques, where we all know what a concrete jungle is in the business world, but we've never heard it compared to an Amazon jungle. And so when you compare and contrast things that are already in people's mental real estate, they lean in and go, oh, got it. And of course, again, we're showing grit, tenacity, and resilience in a story instead of saying it.
Relatability too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think driving at the human element is sort of underlooked during the pitch, and how important EQ is versus IQ, and to empathize and provide the story and the why in the presentation. So I'm sure you've seen a number of pitches that have utilized that technique properly, and those that have not. And at Pitch Investors Live and even Shark Tank and other pitch platforms, I think the key is to get the experience and to learn from each experience, whether you get the investment or not. Take every opportunity to learn from it and to better perfect your pitch. So, I mean, how important is it for the entrepreneur listening in today to understand the significance of practice and to take the time to just, not feel down about maybe not getting the investment right away? Well,
you said three things I want to cover. I want to cover empathy, I want to cover practice, and I want to cover resilience. So those are three amazing topics in one question. So let's take the first one, empathy. Okay. I tell my clients and founders, put your empathy hat on for your potential users, buyers, clients. The more you show an investor you understand someone's problem, the better the investor and your clients think you have their solution. So if you've been in their shoes and that's what caused you to create something, then that's your story of origin, and that really gives you the credibility. Because I believe there's two unspoken questions that investors have, and we need to answer them when we're pitching. Why you, and why now? What makes you uniquely qualified to execute this idea? And then the why now. Think about it. If the economy wasn't in such trouble and back in 2008, Airbnb would not have worked. People wouldn't have been open to new ways to make money. If most people in big cities didn't have smartphones, Uber wouldn't have taken off. So the why now is so crucial. Then you talked about the need for practice. I can't tell you, I don't know if it's a guy thing sometimes. Like, we don't like to ask for directions. Like, my dad used to drive me crazy. I was like, what? Before GPS, I'm like, there is no shame in asking, why are we driving? Anyway, a lot of guys just, I don't want to practice. I don't want to sound robotic. I'll just wing it. And I'm like, really? What's that going to sound like? And if we think of ourselves as athletes or actors on a Broadway show or in a movie, none of them. Tiger Woods doesn't go on the golf course not warming up and practicing. Meryl Streep doesn't get up in front of the camera without knowing her lines. And yet these founders, I don't need to practice. I'll just talk. Nah, it's a kiss of death. In fact, Arthur Ashe, the famous tennis pro, said the key to success is confidence, and the key to confidence is preparation. It was the number one key to my success in my sales career over at Condé Nast, where I won Salesperson of the Year. So preparation will set you apart. Yeah. Let me give you another story. When I was selling advertising, I had the opportunity to meet Michael Phelps. And you think, well, how did that happen? So Speedo was in my territory, and I went to them. I said, hey, I see you coming out with a new line of sportswear. Would you consider advertising that in my fashion magazine? They went, no. We're going to be in a fitness magazine. And then I said these two magic words, what if? Because that's what gets everybody in the right side of the brain where imagination lives. I said, well, what if we treated your sportswear like it was fashion? And we could have a fashion show around a hotel swimming pool outside. You could invite Michael Phelps since he's on your payroll. We get all kinds of publicity. I go, ooh, we like that idea. So I got the advertising. And for me as a former lifeguard, I got to meet Michael Phelps. So I went up to him and I said, Michael, everybody says you're so successful because your feet are like fins and your lung capacity is bigger than the average person. I'm guessing there's something else. He goes, oh, yeah, John. When I was younger, my coach said to me, Michael, are you willing to work out on Sundays? Yes, coach. Great. We just got 52 more workouts in a year than your competition. What are you willing to do as a founder that your competition isn't willing to do to stand out to these investors? So that's the preparation part. And then your other part about resilience. How fast do we get back up after we've been knocked down is the key. And guess what? No surprise. I have another story. When I
Great stories. So keep bringing. Thank you.
When I gave my TEDx talk, I became friends with and I followed the woman named Bonnie St. John, who spoke before me on this topic. And she had lost the lower half of her left leg when she was 12. And then in her 20s, she went on to compete in the Paralympics with a prosthetic leg in downhill skiing. And she's standing on stage with a skirt so you can see her prosthetic leg. She's got the medals around her neck and she's telling this story. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, I got to follow that. But anyway, that's another sidebar. But this is somewhat relevant because a lot of people pitching can get intimidated by the person pitching before them. Right? So you got to stay in your own lane, right? And not worry about that. So she's telling this amazing story that in this particular situation, they had to race down 2 different mountains and they would average your time to see who came in first, second, and third. So the first mountain, she skied down fast. She would come first place. Great. The second mountain was much icier and everybody was falling. Excuse me. Live TV. And she fell like everyone else. And then she got back up and then came down. And then they combined the times and I said, oh, you came in second place. While you were the fastest going down, you were not the fastest person to get back up.
Oh.
So we all are going to get knocked down. Those no's, as you were saying, Adam, and how fast do we shake it off and get ready for the next pitch, or versus holding on to it with a lot of resentment and regret? It doesn't do you any good. So we know we're going to get knocked down. We know we're going to get some no's. We have to learn how to get up faster.
Wow. Yeah, I love that story right there. That's one I haven't heard before because a lot of people get knocked down and it's hard to get up sometimes. So as you were talking about like the practice and everything like that, like what popped up for me is I was just watching, I love Michael Jordan. Okay. So for clarity, I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan, watch every documentary possible, like he's just one of those people that he didn't just make small moves. He like changed significantly the game of basketball within itself, made people that weren't paying attention to basketball pay attention to it. And he was interviewed one time and they were telling him like, about fear. And they asked him like, are you fear? Do you ever get scared when you're going to play a basketball game? And he's like, look, He's like, do I get butterflies? Of course I get butterflies sometimes. He's like, but fear, I don't have to have any fear whatsoever because I'm confident in my skills and abilities because of how much I practice. So as much as I practice myself, I don't have to be fearful. So I'll never go into a game being fearful at all because of his dedication that he had, which people knew was basically insanity. He had such work, endurance, and then he also had so much dedication to his craft. It was literally, people were scared of Michael Jordan. He was audacious in it also, and he was that person that would break down any barrier to get to what he wanted, which was winning. But what made him so freaking confident was that he was practicing like a madman. So yeah, going back to what you're saying is like a lot of people try to come on Pitch Investors Live, and we've had, for example, I'm not going to mention which investors, but we've had some of the investors on our platform say that was a horrible pitch. You know what I mean? And some of those people, I'll tell you right now, I know for a fact that they did not practice and they thought they had it handled. And the thing that is very interesting about that whole thing is that they told me, okay, they told me that they have it down pat and they know exactly what to say and they're going to go into it with confidence, and that confidence that they had and ability that they thought they had and no need for basically bombed 100%. And didn't even realize it. So like, that's one of the scary parts about it too, is that some of these people won't even realize that they're bombing it completely because they don't think that they need help from an expert like yourself or any other expert in general. They think they know it all. And they're also, like you were saying before, it's like they're talking to like a customer. You know, it's like a little bit different and based on their own values and stuff like that. When in reality, it's like, do you even know what this investor wants to hear right now? You don't even know the sequence of events, you know, so and everything like that. So, you know, can you tell us about like what are the three most important things, you know, when you're going to go into a pitch and like in the preparation of it? Okay. So what would you say are the three most important things that an entrepreneur should know, or a startup? Pretend they have a pitch in 3 days, okay? And they have time to prepare. How would you prepare them to get ready for this pitch that is about to come up?
The first step is you have to have a great opening, as we talked about. You need to grab those investors' attention because they care about how big the market is. And you need to also, the biggest mistake I see a lot of founders making is saying, oh, we don't have any competition. And then investors go, then you don't have a market. And they're just not. So anticipate the questions you're going to get asked. And the better you answer those questions in your pitch, such as, what's your secret sauce? Don't wait. Don't make somebody ask you that. Show it in your competition slide. Answer those questions of why you're uniquely qualified, why you're so passionate about this, and why you're so qualified. If you have proof of product market fit, show that. Don't save that. Don't bury the lead, as they say. Mm-hmm. And remember that investors are investing in you, the horse, and your idea and your product is the jockey. When I was interviewing one of the investors who funded Pinterest, he said that was definitely why we put the money. And they came up, you know, their pitch was, what if we could take the behavior of people sticking pictures on their refrigerator with magnets and digitize that behavior? That was the initial concept. They go, that might work. So, but they really believed in the people and their backgrounds and passion and resilience and all that stuff. So they launched it and nobody wanted to do it. And so they had to figure out how to fix it and pivot and all that stuff. So what they went was, what if we got famous people, athletes and fashion influencers, to show us what's in their closet and create their own pin boards. And then once they had that twist, then other people were willing to start doing their own. But they had to figure out how to navigate that. And when you look from the outside in, you think, well, that was just always the idea. And I think the other big tip, Jonathan, would be you must be coachable. You have to be confident, not arrogant, and you must be coachable. So that's why I brought up the butterflies in the stomach thing. Nobody wants somebody who's timid or not confident in what they're saying to, doesn't want to make you give them money. But you also have to realize that investors typically want to do more than just give you money. They want to give you advice and connections and all of that kind of stuff. I have some stories of some people I've helped with their pitch. If you want to hear that, if that would help bring that to life a little bit.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
One of my clients was a guy named Cole, and he had been in the military in the Middle East, and his job there was to keep, the American soldiers' families based at the embassies and stuff safe. So when he came back here, he was like, there's a problem in the school system. My kids, I don't feel safe. What if somebody brings a gun to the school and all this other stuff? So he created an app to solve those problems. And we worked with him on the 3 big problems. That's the other mistake. You need to have 3 simple problems and 3 simple solutions. And much like a script in Hollywood, if you don't have the pitch deck in the right format, people just don't think you know what you're doing. So the problem was schools were still using phone trees and calling parents to let them know there's a medical emergency or a shooter. It was taking forever. And then when the SWAT team or the ambulance got there, they still had to go to the front desk to find out where the problem was, wasting seconds when it mattered. So his app gives a color-coded map, a floor plan, which the police don't have, of where to go. And, it notifies everybody in seconds. So all of those problems and solutions were very clear. And we practiced that and got him into an angel group. And they said, you have 10 minutes and then a 10-minute Q&A. Great. And he goes, I'm really ready on my pitch, but I don't know about the Q&A. I said, listen, in school, it's called cheating if you get the questions before the test. But in life, I call it preparation. So you're going to get asked, how much does it cost to acquire a new customer and all these other things. And so he nailed it and got them. Just the whole goal of that pitch was to get the next meeting. And they said, okay, you're going to come back. The pitch is still 10 minutes. The Q&A goes to 30, and there'll be more angels from the group in the room. And then they said, okay, now we're going to go into due diligence. And so you must be completely transparent and honest. If they find one little thing that you've lied about or hidden in due diligence, game over. And so once he had that offer in process, I then got him in touch with another angel group in New York. And he walked in there with a whole different mindset. Like, I'm here because you guys have a great reputation, but I already have an offer. So, they're like, whoop, fear of missing out kicked in. No. You should take the money from us, not the other group, because we could help you scale this to the FBI. We have connections there and this and that. And one of the questions both angel groups asked him, because he was pre-revenue for the $700,000 he was raising, was, well, who's going to fund the next round? And I'm sure you guys have seen this. It's deer in headlights if they get a question like that. The next round, I'm just trying to get this one funded.
Right.
So I knew that was part of the process. So I'd already introduced him to a VC that I had on my podcast. She agreed to talk to him. And she said, yeah, if you hit these milestones with this seed round, we'd be very interested in doing the Series A because we could take it from schools to airports to all kinds of places. So imagine how much more comfortable those angels were, knowing that he not only had a plan, knew how the game was played, and he was starting a relationship he wasn't going to need for 12 to 18 months. So that's the journey I take people on.
Wow.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. And, you touched on a number of things there. And one thing I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into is sort of the openness that the founder and the entrepreneur needs for feedback and criticism. Oftentimes we see, in the various pitching platforms, the entrepreneur that just nods the head and, and you see literally the words go in one ear and out the other. And it's like their baby. They can't be tinkered. They can't act. It is what it is. This is my product. I love it. This is going to work. How important is it to have that open mindset, to be open to feedback, and to possibly adapt or pivot your company?
Well, that goes back to Adam, what we were saying about the need for preparation. If somebody interrupts your pitch and they're an investor, you can't get defensive. You can't lose your place. You can't have it so that you just go, oh. And I teach people how to be better listeners, because the biggest mistake people make, especially when the adrenaline's kicked in, is they don't hear the question properly.
Right.
So you need to rephrase what the investor said. So you're asking me, how much does it cost to acquire a customer? Is that right? And they go, yes. And then the cost to acquire a new customer is, you take the question and make that the opening to your answer. Because if you don't answer the question because you didn't hear it right, then they think you're evading. They're like, what am I, interviewing a politician? Right? You're not answering my question. That really frustrates them and they're out. Right? Remember, 1% club. Everything has to be A game. And so if they interrupt your pitch, don't get mad. You want that. It's collaborative conversations. They're interested enough to ask a question. And here's another big takeaway. The confused mind always says no. And the investors aren't going to tell you they're confused.
Right. Keep it simple.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, Judy Robinette, and she's judged a lot of pitch contests. And she said, we were listening to this doctor go on and on for 20 minutes, and none of us understood what the heck he was talking about. And I finally, she'd worked in the hospital. She asked him some questions. She's like, so you fix holes in people's hearts? Why didn't you start with that? So that ability to keep it simple doesn't mean you're not smart. It means that, Einstein said, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well.
Right.
And, I worked with a founder in artificial intelligence, and he was talking about structured data and unstructured data. And I said, listen, the investor should not have to be an expert in artificial intelligence to fund this.
Right.
And even if they are, don't make it so dense. And so we came up with a visual of an iceberg. and said the structured data is above the water and the unstructured data is below. So suddenly you're like, oh, okay. And so how are you different than IBM Watson? And they're like, well, IBM Watson can give you feedback as to whether someone's happy or sad, but not why. And so we created the story. You come home from work, your wife is crying. You don't know if it's because tears of joy, tears of sadness, or tears of frustration, and you left your socks on the floor again. Right? But until you know why, you can't act properly. So take that out to a brand monitoring their social media, and they're going, well, things are trending positively or negatively, but we don't know why. That's not good. So that's his secret sauce, is understanding the why behind the emotion.
Right.
That's what helped get him funded. So even the most complicated thing can be told in stories.
Wow. Yeah, 100%. Storytelling is like a huge component. Like some people wonder sometimes why stories last the hands of time. So for example, Greek mythology, going back to a lot of the different texts in ancient history, a lot of the stories that have held the hands of time have been storytelling. So we've been very hardwired to go and navigate. There was a gentleman that I was learning some advanced accelerated learning techniques from. And one of the things that he was telling me is he's like, look, if you really want to memorize a lot of things in long paragraphs, whether it's words itself, phone numbers, or just information in general, create a story around it. And then just navigate yourself through the story with all the information. He's like, your mind will be wired to remember all that stuff because it's going to be synapses. And he was going into the whole entire scientific reasoning behind it. But, synapses were opening and connecting to things that were already there instead of being just brand new information. So can you tell us why storytelling with pitching and what's the significance of storytelling to grab the attention of investors?
Well, it goes back to what you're saying, back in the days when we all lived in caves. People would sit around campfires and tell stories. Now we sit around the glow of Zoom and PowerPoints. We are, in fact, wired because it's the left brain, right brain thing. People buy emotionally and then back it up with logic. And when I say buy, that could be invest. They're buying you. You're right. You're selling them a pitch. So if all you do are telling logic, here's how big the market is, here's how many users we have, blah, 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 here's our financial projections, and there's no right brain storytelling of imagine how we can change the world and make it better. And I remember interviewing an investor, and he said, I want to hear a pitch that paints a picture of how it's going to improve the world. And then my question to myself is, do I want to be part of that world?
Wow.
And so that's the importance of storytelling, is in order for the investor to see themselves giving you money and working with you, they have to see the story and understand your vision and not the numbers. You need to know your numbers, but you don't lead with your numbers. And so that's why, the concept of pitching, especially if you're one after another, and you put yourself again in the shoes of the investor, and they're hearing pitch after pitch after pitch. Which one are they going to tell their friends about? Oh, I heard this great pitch today. It's the story of this guy who had to survive the Amazon jungle and da 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 da. Or I heard this great pitch today about, artificial intelligence, structured data and unstructured data. So, remember that the investors are people and they want to have pride in what they're investing in. I interviewed Charles Michael Yin, who's been on Shark Tank. He's the only one to get all 5 sharks to say yes. And then he went on to Richard Branson's challenge on the island.
Wow.
And he created a device that allowed people to see if they were too drunk to drive, basically. But it was all about tugging at the heartstrings to get people to open those purse strings. That's the soundbite. So he was telling me that it wasn't about the statistics of where your breath is and drunk. It was about, if we make this something people use before they get behind the wheel of the car, how many, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, how many lives will be saved? By the time they get pulled over, it's too late. And, your judgment's impaired. And then Richard Branson wanted it because it also could analyze if you, from your breath, if you were cancer was in your body before it showed up as a tumor and helped save lives.
Wow.
So his big takeaway for me to teach everyone is everything he says is not only a story, but it's through the lens of here's the problem and here's my solution. That's the key to getting investors to understand and want to work with you. So here's my problem, here's your solution, and here's how good you're going to feel about being part of that solution.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of commonalities with this guidance, and it for me, the way I synthesize it is a relatability and getting back to EQ, understanding your audience, and really taking the time to connect. So connecting with one human to another, we're dealing with human beings. So if you drive at the emotion, or give someone a mental image that they picture in their mind. Some people learn through imagery versus other ways. That to me is just that much more convincing than hard numbers, data, and just speaking at this high level that maybe you and the other nerds that do what you do understand. Mm-hmm. I'm an attorney, and sort of the relatability we see for this is, if we have to try a case and get in front of a jury, if we talk in legal terms in front of the jurors, they're not going to understand what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah.
We really have to break it down to them, have them relate to our client's situation, and explain it and convey it in a way that they understand. And to me, that's the biggest takeaway. I mean, would you agree? It's just understandability.
Yes. And so let's expand that and just let everybody know, do not use acronyms in your pitch. Don't do it. I don't care if you assume everybody knows what that means. Spell it out. Even AI, say artificial intelligence. I remember when my sister got out of law school, she said to me something. She goes, well, I don't mean it in that pejorative sense. And I said, what's pejorative mean? And she said, oh, it's a legal term for condescending. And I said, wait a minute. You used a word that means condescending that you knew I wouldn't understand to be condescending and saying don't mean to be pejorative? Oh, my God. I was livid. Anyway, I just couldn't resist that example. That's an example of a legal term. If you said that to a jury, they'd be like, what? But this, if you really want to be in this 1% club of people who get funded, here's some extra steps like the Michael Phelps story, and bringing it full circle, guys, of what you can do that the competition hasn't thought to do or isn't willing to do. Not only put your empathy hat on for the people who are going to use your app or whatever it is you're selling, but put your empathy hat on for the investor. That means do some homework. Yes. Go to their website, see what other things they've invested in, take the extra step and reach out to those founders who are in their portfolio and ask them what they like about it. Imagine if you brought that up in your pitch to an investor. Oh, I talked to so-and-so who's with blah, blah company. And one of the things he loves most about working with you is that you help him scale, or your connections, or whatever it is. The more specific it is, they're like, wow. I'm not just anybody to this guy. I'm not just a checkbook to this person. This person has done enough homework on who I invest in, what kinds of things I'm looking for. And, oh, hey, why don't we comment and like on their LinkedIn posts? It's not that hard, and nobody does it.
Right.
Before you get in the room.
Yeah. Major preparation, it sounds like, right? Like being prepped to know exactly what they do. And it's like, it brings up our last guest that we have, which is John Demartini. I don't know if you ever heard of him, Dr. John Demartini. And he talks about values, right? So one of the biggest things, so I love the study of axiology, which is the study of values and meaning and purpose. And one of the biggest things that I like to do back in the days when I used to take clients and such, no longer something that I do, is that I would study the clients and I would try to figure out what their values are, and basically in essence, what you're saying is like, if you go and study and see what they like, what they're into, you're going to have a valuable conversation that they're going to be engaged in. Yes. One of the biggest things these days is like when I have conversations with someone that I understand their values, I know exactly how I can get their peaks up of interest And I know when I can get them completely turned off when something's very low on their values and priorities. They'll just literally, like you were saying, they'll be falling asleep. So the more that you can interpret, you know, if it's someone that is visible in the social world, it makes it a lot easier. Obviously, you have to go into more digging, which a lot of investors, sadly, you're not going to find so much information of them. But those that you can, you'll know the subjects that they will touch their heart big time. And then what you could do is you can stack and link, let's just say, the type of information that you want to be relayed over to them and match it up to what they really value. You know what I'm saying? Like me, myself, my top 3 values are knowledge, business, social change. So if you come to me and you want to talk about those 3 things in unison, I am going to listen to every word that you have to say to me. Okay. But if you come to me and you talk to me about, you know, let's say cooking, accounting, you know, like management and operations and stuff, literally, I am going to want to run away from that conversation right away. You know what I mean? So like people got to understand that that's one of the key factors, you know, to stack it on top of what you're saying. The more that you find out about these investors and what they love and what they're into, and actually a lot of the companies that they may have invested in already, that'll kind of give you a take of like where they stand and give you a head start and get them extremely engaged. You know, like that to me is like the engagement factor, and having them remember you because you're having a valuable conversation is huge. Because what is it? What you just said right now? So 2,500 pitches they get, 25 of them are funded. I mean, that's pretty significant. 1%, like you said. How do you stand out in those 1% and everything like that, which is quite interesting, I would have to say. So
I love that stack and link. What a great analogy of connecting the dots. Really good.
Oh yeah, it's lovely. You got to check, if you haven't checked out Dr. Demartini, he talks a lot about that stuff. Super amazing guy with human behavior and performance. So here's one really important thing. So a lot of people have been talking to me and they're like, man, you know, like the whole ecosystem has changed. It's really hard to raise money now. And I'm like, look, I was like, here's the reality. It's not really hard to raise money right now. Like maybe in the beginning of the pandemic, people were scared and everything like that. But we've had, what is it now, $7 trillion deployed, printed, and thrown into the economy. So it's not like money is not there. Money's there. It's just changing hands and shifting in a different direction. So compared to 2019 to now 2020, can you tell us how are people raising money? Is it different now than it was before? And do you have any advice for these entrepreneurs that are looking to raise money in this end of 2020 or in the beginning of 2021 with all these new circumstances? Well,
you know, I am old enough to have lived through some other pandemics. I'm not 100 years old, and I'm not from 1912. But, you know, I remember other pandemics and the AIDS crisis and 9/11 and 2008 when the mortgage thing collapsed, and things are cyclical. And people have a choice. I mean, actually, there's all kinds of fun research about a lot of tech companies that started during a downturn, or even to go back to the 30s and depression, a lot of things. So it's a mindset thing. If you believe that no one's giving money during this time, then that will be your reality. So I'm a big believer in mindset first. So if you come from a scarcity place, then you know, again, Einstein said the biggest decision we'll ever make is if we think of the world as a friendly, safe place or a scary, dangerous place.
Right.
And once we have made that choice and that decision, we then go look for supporting evidence, in legal terms, to support that belief. Right? That's as legal as I get at. Evidence, Your Honor, Exhibit A. But it's true, right? If you want to, you can find all kinds of reasons to think that the world is a scary, dangerous place right now, that the economy is about to crash and never recover and blah, blah, blah. Or you can say, that's not my belief. I'm going to look for the best in people and the best opportunities. And, you know, what if this is a time, again, if I can answer that why me and why now question, then it doesn't matter what's going on in the outside world. And then I better up my game and make sure that I'm good on Zoom with good lighting and a good mic, and that I come across professionally, and all those little details that I can control. That's what you focus on. What can I control? Well, I can control learning how to be better on Zoom. I can control not being nervous on Zoom. I can control getting in the right room, and I can certainly control how to tell a good story.
Amen. Wow, that was a beautiful way to put it there. Like that in today's day and age, like the things are shifting like so quickly and everything like that. And like I think me and Adam are on the same page that we love, first of all, talking about, mindset, like we tend to go like into like consciousness and everything like that. And like we are finding our own realities, just like what's happening in society today. So like another reason, like one of the things that we're doing at the moment actually, and we did this kind of just a little bit for fun, but a sister company to Pitch Investors Live is actually called 2Up, where we originally took the technology of live streaming, kind of dating online, was a debate app. And because of the crazy polarization, we launched this in 2015, 2016 area. And what we did is like, it did actually pretty well during that time. There wasn't really marketing behind it or anything. And we're now relaunching it because you know what, there is a huge polarization happening in society right now. And a lot of that polarization is basically keeping people apart without having these conversations and such, so it's like, we're launching, I think, next week on the 29th, so anyone that is listening, if you guys like are keyboard warriors or anything like that, like you guys got to go download this app. We're doing it right before the elections. It's actually going to be really interesting, because it kind of started off as like an idea that, yeah, people can have conversations, they can talk about topics or whatever. And that's what transmuted into turning it to Pitch Investors Live, where you would put together an investor and a startup and everything like that, so they can have a pitch and people are watching. So we basically are relaunching that one. And it's just a quick reminder of, everything that is going on in society. And it's a lot about mindset and social media. And I don't know if you have a take on this, but social media has not just polarized us, but kept us only at one viewpoint right now. And it's very much, and the reason I bring this up is that you can either choose to be fearful with the media portraying it, everything like that, or you can make a choice and be like, yo, I'm safe and I'm good. And here's the thing. The people that I've known that have gotten corona, and here I'm not making any claims or anything like this, but a lot of people that I know that have gotten sick, their mindset was kind of very fear-based. And then those that have been around people with coronavirus and they're just like, I'm the healthiest person on the planet, are safe as can be. Again, making no associations. This is just what has happened. So there's a huge line in there, like Adam, like what do you think about the whole thing with that? What we talk about basically is like the whole mindset behind this, and that sometimes it overcomes the material.
Your thoughts create reality. I mean, that's as simple as it can be. Is
Yep.
that, what we think about, we tend to see. And, I'm a huge Wayne Dyer fan. Jonathan knows this, and I've read one of his books. And one of his most famous quotes is, you change the way you look at things, and the things you look at begin to change.
Yep.
So
let me tell you one of my favorite Wayne Dyer quotes. He said, when you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. Doesn't matter what time of day, whether you're in the middle of the room or the corner, you always get orange juice. So if you think of yourself as an orange and someone's putting this pressure on you, you're feeling squeezed. Maybe you're even squeezed into a corner. Does kindness and respect and trust and your best self show up? Or do you get anxious and anger and fear coming out? So the goal, he said, is be more like the orange.
Yeah.
No matter what time of day and where you are and squeezed or not, that consistency of our identity staying the same. And I don't think it's anybody on any political side, or I think every doctor would agree that fear reduces your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So not that we don't want to follow rules or whatever, all those things, but it doesn't do any good. I saw an ad for something that infuriated me. It was like, now that we can't go outside, buy these incenses for your home that bring the smell of the forest in your house. I was like, that is such a manipulative use of fear. And it's not even true. We're supposed to go outside.
Right.
And, it was just, so that's what I'm talking about with social media and advertising that can go wrong. Actually, they've done all this research that the more time, especially young people, spend on social media, the more depressed they become.
Yeah.
So we got to stop comparing ourselves to other people. Like I referenced following that great speaker. Same thing when you're following another person pitching. You just got to stay in your own lane and not. Shocker, another story. When I swam competitively, there was always this guy that beat me in breaststroke. In breaststroke, you pick your head out of the water, take a breath, put it back down. And, you touch the wall and it's the thousandths of a second. They measure your time. The gun goes off. We're swimming. I touch the wall and they go, oh my God, you beat that guy. I said, how'd that happen? They said, well, you stayed focused on the wall. he turned his head halfway through to see if you was ahead or not. And that half a second of turning caused you to beat him by half a second. So the whole takeaway is focus on your own progress and you win.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Hell yeah.
So we got just a few more minutes, and we're really appreciative of your time today. I always like to ask our guests to give some type of actionable items or some type of homework that, let's say, the entrepreneur who is trying to raise money, hasn't had any luck, maybe is at a point of giving up. Is there anything that you would recommend today that the entrepreneur or founder do to sort of not give up, and something that they can do to give them the best chance at
the first thing is, I have a gift for everybody. If you take out your phone and you text the word pitch, PITCH, to this number 66866, I'll send you a free PDF of all my top storytelling tips.
Nice.
Thank you.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great gift and an actionable homework item. It's very easy to digest. And the next thing is, there's a little book out called 212 Degrees. And the story here is that water gets hot all the way to 211. And then when it hits 212, it starts boiling. And boiling water creates steam. And then the steam can drive a steam engine forward. So many of us get all the way up to 211 degrees and we dial down the heat. We don't know how close we are to the tipping point, as Malcolm said. So the incentive to not give up is, what's that one more degree of effort, one more email, one more rehearsal? Then you never know when that's going to be the thing that gets things moving.
Brilliant.
Wow. Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. It's like, what is that book by Greg Reed? It's called 3 Feet from Gold, right? That story of the guy that basically was 3 feet from gold, ended up thinking he couldn't go any further, ended up selling off the property. And the guy just kept going down that same route. 3 feet from there, struck one of the biggest gold mines that was out there and everything. So yeah, that's super amazing information, everything like that. And as we get closer to the end right now and everything like that, can you give us your information of how people can follow you and
Sure.
What exactly is it that you do, and how can anyone gain any value from the expertise? And we're actually hoping, I'm going to put this out here right now live, that we want to be a little bit more involved over here with the Pitch Whisperer, because we're in very resonating territories and everything like that. And one of the biggest things I believe in, in my companies, I don't even see competition. If you guys think you're competition to something that we do, at the end of the day, we don't see it that way. We want to align with people. And we love, after doing a little research on you, I was like, whoa, this is a real resonating thing. Pitch Whisperer, Pitch Investors Live, we're in a very similar territory and everything like that. But tell us a little bit more about you, some of the stuff that you do, where people could follow you.
Sure.
So then further know.
Well, if you Google the Pitch Whisperer, all my content comes up. I've trademarked it. It's also my Instagram handle. And on my website, johnlivesay.com, there's a training tab where I've taken the concepts from my book, Better Selling Through Storytelling, and created an online course. And so people can go through the course and learn how to tell good stories for a pitch. And then I work with them in a private Facebook group. And so, we can collaborate. And if we get enough of your members, we could create a private Facebook group just for them. For me, they could actually practice their pitches with me before they go on your app and give those pitches. So you would have more confidence that they're not just telling you they're prepared, but they actually are prepared.
Great. That's very nice, very generous, and we really appreciate that. Any final words before we finish this episode? Words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
I would say that if you can imagine future pacing yourself, and this is the social impact that you're talking about, Jonathan. Imagine that you're having a conversation with yourself a year from now. What would have to happen between now and then for you to feel really proud of who you are?
Wow. Beautiful. Ask it, or are you just saying that?
Yeah, and then start doing that to get there.
Thank you.
Based thing, yeah.
Wow,
Thank you.
That's actually a really good question, guys. Like, pay attention to that one right now. Like, yeah, a year from now, what would you guys like to be or be proud? That is monumental, and that's putting a goal into place. So, wow, we appreciate that. Thank you for joining us here at Pitch the World with my amazing co-host Adam. We're like about to finish off our second season. We're looking to potentially level up next season. So, you know, anyone that wants to be involved, same thing goes for you. John Livesay.
Subtle hints there, John.
So we're like, yeah, we're looking to potentially, for now, it's been a little bit of like of a hobby of what we've been doing, and we're about to end off our final episode. Will be the next episode coming up. And then, you know, we're like looking to see how we can take this to the next level. But again, it's very hobby-like. We love these type of conversations, bringing amazing people like you and just having fun, getting value. You know, we get so many messages from people that kind of keep us going. Also, you know, we're so busy with everything that we do, but when we can make these valuable connections, give value to our startups, our entrepreneurs, you know, investors that are watching, people that are thinking of making the jump into the entrepreneurial space and they have no idea how. Shoot, we just talk about personal stuff and life in general. And, you know, so we're seeing how we're going to do this next season, you know, so it's really amazing to have you here. We would love to connect further and see what we could create. But, you know, greatly appreciated for everyone. And we're looking forward to getting this next episode, and we'll see what happens for season 3, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.